Hi guys, it's me, Ms.Joelle. I'm going to read to you a book called Fuzzy Mud. It's by Sachar. Chapter 1, Tuesday, November 2nd, 11:55 a.m. Woodridge Academy, a private school in Heathcliff, Pennsylvania, had once been the home of William Heath, after whom the town had been named. Nearly 300 students now attended the school in the four-story black and brown building where William Heath had lived from 1891 to 1917 with only his wife and 3 daughters. Tamaya Dilwadi's 5th grade classroom on the 4th floor had been the youngest daughter's bedroom. The kindergarten area had once been the stables. The lunchroom used to be a grand ballroom where elegantly dressed couples had sipped champagne and danced to a live orchestra. Crystal chandeliers still hung from the ceiling, but these days the room permanently smelled of stale macaroni and cheese. 289 kids ages 5 to 14 crammed their mouths with Cheetos, made jokes about boogers, spilled milk, and shrieked for no apparent reason. Tamaya didn't shriek, but she did gasp very quietly as she covered her mouth with her hands. "He's got this super long beard," a boy was saying, "splotched all over with blood. And no teeth," another boy added. They were boys from the upper grades. Tamaya felt excited just talking to them, although so far she'd been too nervous to actually say anything. She was sitting in the middle of a long table eating lunch with her friends Monica, Hope, and Summer. One of the older boys' legs was only inches from hers. "The guy can't chew his own food," said the first boy, "so his dogs have to chew it up for him, and then they spit it out, and then he eats it." "That's so disgusting," exclaimed Monica. But from the way her eyes shone when she said it, Tamaya could tell that her best friend was just as excited as she was to have the attention of the older boys. The boys had been telling the girls about a deranged hermit who lives in the woods. Tamaya didn't believe half of what they said. She knew boys liked to show off, but still it was kind of fun to let herself get caught up in it. "Except that they're not dogs," said the boy sitting next to Tamaya. "They're more like wolves, big and black with giant fangs and glowing red eyes." Tamaya shuddered. Woodridge Academy was surrounded by miles of wood and rocky hills. Tamaya walked to school every morning with Marshall Walsh, a 7th grade boy who lived 3 houses down from her and on the other side of the tree-lined street. Their walk was almost 2 miles long. It would have been a lot shorter if they hadn't had to circle around the woods. "Well, so what does he eat?" asked Summer. The boy next to Tamaya shrugged. "Whatever the wolves bring him. Squirrels, rats, people. He doesn't care, just so long as it's food." The boy took a big bite of his tuna fish sandwich, then imitated a hermit by curling his lips so that it looked like he didn't have any teeth. He opened and closed his mouth with an exaggerated manner, showing Tamaya his partially chewed food. "You are so gross," exclaimed Summer from the other side of Tamaya. All the boys laughed. Summer was the prettiest of Tamaya's friends. With straw-colored hair and sky-blue eyes, Tamaya figured that was probably the reason that they were talking to them in the first place. Boys were always acting a little silly around Summer. Tamaya had dark eyes and dark hair that hung only halfway down her neck. It used to be a lot longer, but 3 days before school started, while she was still in Philadelphia with her dad, she made a drastic decision to chop it all off. Her dad took her to a very posh hair salon that he probably couldn't afford. As soon as she got it cut, she was filled with regret. But when she got back to Heathcliff, her friends told her how mature and sophisticated she looked. Her parents were divorced. She spent most of her summer with her dad and one weekend each month during the school year. Philadelphia was on the opposite side of the state, 300 miles away. When she returned home to Heathcliff, she always had the feeling that she'd missed something important while she'd been gone. Might have been nothing more than an inside joke that her friends all laughed at, but she always felt a little left out, and it took her a while to get back into the groove. "He came this close to me," said one of the boys, a tough-looking kid with short black hair and a square face. "A wolf snapped at my leg just as I was climbing back over the fence." The boy stood on top of the bench to show the girls his pant leg for proof. It was covered in dirt, and Tamaya could see a small hole just above his sneaker. But that could have been from anything. Besides, she thought, if he had been running away from the wolf, then the hole would have been on the back of his pants, not on the front. The boy stared down at her. He had blue steel-like eyes, and Tamaya got the feeling that he could read her mind and was daring her to say something. She swallowed, then said, "Well, you're not really allowed in the woods." The boy laughed, and then the other boys laughed. "What are you going to do?" he challenged. "Tell Mrs. Thaxton?" She felt her face redden. "No." "Don't listen to her," said Hope. "Tamaya's a real goody two-shoes." The words stung. Just a few seconds earlier, she had been feeling so cool talking with the older boys. Now, they were all staring at her as if she was some kind of freak. She tried making a joke out of it. "I guess I'll only wear one shoe from now on." Nobody laughed. "Well, you are kind of a goody-goody," said Monica. Tamaya bit her lip. She didn't get why what she had said had been so wrong. After all, Monica and Summer had just called the boys disgusting and gross. But somehow that was okay. I mean, if anything, the boys seemed proud that the girls thought they were disgusting and gross. When did the rules change? She wondered. When did it become bad to be good? Across the lunchroom, Marshall Walsh sat amid a bunch of kids all laughing and talking loudly. On one side of Marshall sat one group. On his other side sat a different group. Between these two groups, Marshall silently ate alone. Chapter 2, Sunray Farms. In a secluded valley 30 miles northwest of Woodridge Academy was Sunray Farm. You wouldn't know it was a farm if you saw it. There were no animals, no green pastures, and no crops, at least none that grew big enough for anyone to see with the naked eye. Instead, what you would see, if you made it past the armed guards, past the electric fence topped with barbed wire, past the alarms and security cameras, would be rows and rows of giant storage tanks. You also wouldn't be able to see the network of tunnels and underground pipes connecting the storage tanks to the main laboratory, also underground. Hardly anyone in Heathcliff knew about Sunray Farm, and certainly not Tamaya or her friends. Those who had heard of it only had vague idea about what was going on there. They might have heard of Bioline, but probably didn't know exactly what it was. A little more than a year before, that is, about a year before, Tamaya Dilwadi cut her hair and started 5th grade. The United States Senate Committee on Energy and the Environment held a series of secret hearings regarding Sunray Farm and Bioline. The following testimony is excerpt from this inquiry. Senator Wright: "You worked at Sunray Farms for 2 years before being fired, is that correct?" Dr. Mark Humbard: "No, that's not correct. They never fired me." Senator Wright: "I'm sorry, I'd been informed." Dr. Mark Humbard: "Well, they may have tried to fire me, but I had already quit. I just hadn't told anyone yet." Senator Wright: "I see." Senator Foote: "But you no longer work there?" Dr. Mark Humbard: "I couldn't be in the same room with Fitzy a minute longer. That man's crazy. And when I say crazy, I mean 100% bananas." Senator Wright: "Are you referring to Jonathan Fitzman, the inventor of Bioline?" Dr. Mark Humbard: "Everyone thinks he's some kind of genius. But who did all of the work? Me. That's who. Or at least I would have if he had let me. He'd pace around the lab, muttering to himself, his arms flailing. It was impossible for the rest of us to concentrate. And he'd sing songs. And if you asked him to stop, he'd look at you as if you were the one that was crazy. He wouldn't even know he was singing. And then, out of the blue, he'd slap the side of his head, yelling, 'No, no, no!' And suddenly, I'd have to stop everything I'd been working on and start all over again." Senator Wright: "Oh, yes, we've heard that Mr. Fitzsimmons can be a bit eccentric." Senator Foote: "Which is one reason why we're concerned about Bioline. Is it truly a viable alternative to gasoline?" Senator Wright: "The country needs clean energy, but is it safe?" Dr. Mark Humbard: "Clean energy? Is that what they're calling it? There's nothing clean about it. It's an abomination of nature. You want to know what they're doing at Sunray Farm? You really want to know? Because I know. I know." Senator Foote: "Yes, we want to know. That's why you've been called before this committee, Mr. Humbard." Dr. Mark Humbard: "Doctor." Senator Foote: "Excuse me?" Dr. Mark Humbard: "It's Dr. Humbard, not Mr. Humbard. I have a PhD in microbiology." Senator Wright. Our apologies. Tell us, please, Dr. Humbird. What are they doing at Sunray Farm that you find so abominable? Dr. Mark Humbird. They've created a new life form never seen before. Senator Wright. A kind of high-energy bacteria, as I understand it, to be used for fuel. Dr. Mark Humbird. Not bacteria, slime mold. People are always confusing the two. Both are microscopic, but they're really quite different. We began with a simple slime mold, but Fitzy altered its DNA to create something new, a single-celled living creature that's totally unnatural to this planet. Sunray Farm is now growing these man-made microorganisms, these tiny Frankensteins, so that they can burn them alive inside automobile engines. Senator Foote. Burn them alive? Don't you think that's a bit strong, Dr. Humbird? We're talking about microbes here. After all, every time I wash my hands or brush my teeth, I kill hundreds of thousands of bacteria. Dr. Mark Humbird. Just because they're small doesn't mean their lives aren't worthwhile. Sunray Farms is creating a life for the sole purpose of destroying it. Senator Wright. But isn't that what all farmers do? It's kind of an interesting point. What do you guys think? Can you compare the two? Using a microorganism, a tiny little living thing, as fuel. I mean, what are plants but fuel for our bodies? Okay, I'll pick it up again on chapter 3. Have a great night or day, depending on where you're listening. Bye.